Welcome everybody to our second, uh, yeah, our second show of the day. I think we're going to have at least four. This is Carrie Kanya. She is a local here in Sedona. We're going to get to know her, and as usual, in typical Soul Speaks 5D style, I don't know anything about her. She tried to talk to me a while ago, and I said, "Don't talk to me." We do it spontaneously. I'm kidding. We had a few words, and
Yes.
very interesting. She's into a lot of stuff. I went to her page while she was doing something else, and she's a medium, and she also is into dance, and we'll talk about that because I can't remember all the specifics.
Okay.
But I know part of it is a big part of what you do, and yeah. So I don't know, where do we start? Let's just see. How long have you been in Sedona?
I've been in Sedona for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah. And this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere, but it definitely feels like home to me. I'm originally from Northeast Ohio. I was born in Akron, Ohio. And yeah, I've lived here for 18 years and
So
I'm in.
18 years, that would have been 2002. Were you already woke in
Oh,
2000?
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I
When did
well,
you?
I thought I was.
Yeah, well, okay, let's put it this way. Did you have did you have a good grasp of what would be happening now? For instance, like 2015, 2017, 2020. Did you have a good grasp of that in 2002?
As far as everything that's happening
Yeah, like ascension,
today.
like a real an actual awakening and the type
Yeah.
of transformational changes that are in the air, that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a spiritual path. Believe it or not, I committed my life to my own spiritual awakening when I was like 5 years old.
Wow.
And so I've been on a lifelong journey of just, exploring spiritually and growing and developing and layers of awakening and expanding consciousness. And so by the time I moved to Sedona, I had already been working as a professional psychic for about 15 years, I would say. So when I moved here, I thought I was, I've done a lot of healing.
Welcome to Sedona.
And I get to Sedona and it's like, welcome to kindergarten.
Right.
So yeah, Sedona does have a way of,
Yeah, that's-
bringing up what needs to be healed. And, if you're into it, then Sedona will let you stay. If not, not.
you know what I wonder about. I went out to a conference to speak at a conference yesterday. Uh, I guess north on Dry Creek Road at about 7 or 8 miles, and and I saw all the land for sale, and also saw all the tourist traffic, and I thought, because I've been here about 6 times since 2018, and I totally get what you're talking about. It's a very special place, and it brings up a lot of stuff. But I wonder, what do the tourists go through? I wonder what happens to them. I wonder how many divorces occur as a result of having come to Sedona, or other things that need
Yeah,
to
Sedona's like an activating place for sure. My take on it is that it intensifies whatever you have within you, right?
Yeah.
And so it can lead you to an expanded awareness in some way, shape, or form that you can embrace and go with, but it can also, trigger you in a way. It depends on where you're at within your own life.
Yeah.
And, I think some people get scared and run.
Yeah, like projection and defense, maybe. So 5 years old, you have a conscious awareness to some degree, where you choose yourself, which is really what this whole trip's about. Did you have guidance from incarnated individuals like your parents, or did it come from just a natural knowing, or did it come from your team?
Well, probably a little bit of everything. I'll give you like the short version. I feel like I'm a person that was born naturally very tapped in intuitively. And the reason I think that is because I have memories of being very, very young and not only having intuitive insights that were true and accurate. When I was a kid, I called it seeing the truth of people. But I have other memories, such of having like out of body experiences and things like that, like before I could even walk. I don't know how I can remember those things, but I can. Anyway, I have one memory when I was 5 years old. There was a day where it must have been like Memorial Day or something, because my aunt, who was instrumental in raising my sister and I and her children, my cousins. She took us to a cemetery one day to see like, a passed on relative's grave. And I don't know why she said this to me, but I remember lagging behind with her as my sister and my cousins went off to play. And she was like, someday Jesus is going to come and take all the good people with him. And all of the bad people are going to go to hell. And, and I instinctively knew that for one, she's not really saying it the right way, but there was a seed of truth in what she was trying to convey to me that I was somehow able to discern. And something about that short conversation was like a little bit of an awakening for me, where I was like, I know that my job here in my life is to be dedicated to my own spiritual awareness. And it wasn't coming from fear like, oh, I'm going to go to hell if I don't do this. It was like a transmission of awareness that came in.
Yeah. Like it was like a catalyst to a greater knowing. Yeah. Even though it wasn't like literal terms, I get that.
Yeah.
It was like an energetic download.
Yeah, it totally was.
Yeah.
And then I have like both dynamics in my family. My dad is more like, political, blah, 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 not into anything spiritual really. But my mom was the opposite end of the spectrum, total hippie artist, into spiritual stuff, astrology. She started,
cool.
Yeah,
How cool is that?
It was awesome.
So you had the stereotypical patriarchal imprinted man. Mm-hmm. The straight lines and
yes.
stringent, engineer type,
Very much like
and
that.
then you had the mother who was imprinted by the patriarchal, but still had the free flowing of the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The gray area.
And so she, raised us to be more like that. She started teaching me astrology by the time I was like 9 or 10 years old. Mm. I still have the first astrology book she ever gave me. She gave it to me for my 11th birthday, and it was Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. I still have it. It's like kind of falling apart, but I still have it. And so, yeah, I feel like she was one of my first spiritual teachers, and I'm super grateful for, the direction she guided me into. And I think partially she guided me because she could recognize my intuition. And I was never overly encouraged to go in one way or another way. I was just shown things that I could explore if I wanted to. And luckily, both my parents were really cool about that. Like, hey, explore what feels good for you, and whatever you feel is right for you spiritually, we support you. And even my father is like that. For as straight-laced as he is, he's like, hey, man, I raised you to be an independent thinker, and I want you to choose based on what feels good for you.
Yeah, whatever makes you happy. Isn't that a great credo? Are you happy? Mm-hmm. You don't have to be a light worker to say something like that or receive something like that. People just carry that vibe, certain people. So you moved to Sedona in 2002.
It's actually 2003.
2003.
Yeah.
You've been on this journey a while. Mm-hmm. You've already passed the 1987 harmonic convergence, and then, of course, the Y2K. Mm-hmm. Now you're in 2002, 2003. Were you called to Sedona?
I ended up, but I didn't, not really previously. So the backstory of that, my brother moved to Arizona probably 8 or 9 years before I did. And so he was a catalyst. I remember him taking me to Sedona when I came here to visit, probably back in 1997 or 98 or something like that. I came to Phoenix to visit my brother, and he brought me to Sedona to try to bribe me to move to Phoenix, because he knew I was into everything having to do with metaphysical stuff and spiritual awakening and all that. At that time when I came here, I wasn't really into it because he took me to some of the, shops and things like that. And so on that trip, I was exposed to the commercialism aspect of Sedona, and it was sort of a turnoff for me. Yeah. And I never intended to move here. In fact, on that trip, I was like, it's a great place, but it's too remote, it's too isolated, it's too hard to get to. I don't think I'd ever want to live here. Lo and behold, a few years later, I ended up moving from Ohio, lived in an RV for a few years, traveling around, ended up in Sedona, came here to go camping with a friend at the time, and we camped up on Schnebley Hill. We came down and to go into town because we forgot like a pot or something to cook with on an open fire, so we had to come to town to buy one. And we went to the store in town that's still here. And when I walked in that store, I literally had a vision. I was like, I'm going to live here someday. I had a vision that I was going to live here. So we finished that camping trip. We traveled for a few more months, working at festivals. He's a musician. I was dancing at festivals and doing readings and things like that. And we used that trip to, decide where we wanted to relocate because we knew we didn't want to stay in Phoenix. And that tour was up and down the West Coast from California all the way up to Washington, and checked out a bunch of different places. Never found anywhere that I liked more than here, so ended up just coming here. So
did you go through an initiation when you got here?
Let's see.
Did you go through anything like right off the bat, or it's just something that's always there?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, like I said, it was like, welcome to kindergarten. You think you've done all your work. Here's the next layer. And so, I moved here with a person that was a partner of mine at the time, and we ended up breaking up, of course, as a part of everything. But that's all fine and good. We're both, on good terms and all of that. So, yeah, it's, deeper layers of awareness that came through having more conscious realization around old traumas and wounds that I hadn't recognized. And, so being here in Sedona has really been a tremendous support in healing through a lot of those things. And with healing, I feel, my perspective on healing is that the idea is to not get stuck in an endless cycle of healing, but to achieve healing so that you can be really completely embodied and live life completely present to the fullest.
Yeah.
Which is very connected to like yoga philosophy, which I am also a longtime yoga practitioner and yoga teacher as well. So
you've watched a lot of things evolve, not just in Sedona. Because I've only been coming here for 2.5 years, and I can see the acceleration in the commercialization of it. I mean, it's crazy. But you've also seen the changes in what we call the Starseed or Lightworker Ascension communities, which seemed to really kind of blow up around 2012 and the years since then. Did you have an understanding? I know I asked you this earlier, but I mean, were you surprised at the magnitude of this evolution? Have you just gone back, step back, and gone like, "Wow, this is really happening"?
Well, I feel like I always follow my intuition and I stay tapped into that, and I feel more like I'm holding space and going along for the ride. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Staying in your own lane.
Yeah, staying in my own lane and just holding space.
It's a full-time job just staying on your own stuff, isn't it?
A super interesting thing that I was just speaking with Serena about before we started is, as you know, I used to have a yoga and dance studio in town called Lotus Studio,
That's right, yeah.
which I transitioned to another, and now it's another studio. But the reason I did that is because my intuition was screaming at me you need to take a break from this. And so I did, and I had no reason, I had no idea why. I was like, why am I feeling like I'm supposed to stop teaching belly dance classes? Because I've been a professional belly dancer for like 20 some years. Why do I feel like I'm supposed to take a break? I didn't know why, but I knew enough to listen to that intuition. And so I transitioned out of it, and boom, COVID hits, and this energy of great awakening is happening. And I'm like, okay, now I know why. I'm just really glad I listened to my intuition.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And have you, well, let me ask you this. You've been on this path a long, long time. You're obviously an energy practitioner, among other things. What do you do when you get triggered?
Breathe. I've learned to take a few deep breaths. I have a really good modality that I use that I learned from the teachings of Don Miguel Ruiz and his sons. I've been following his teachings for many, many years. And so this is an art of questioning that you can ask yourself that enables you to get to the core wound that is connected to the trigger. And this is what I primarily use for myself when I get triggered. I breathe, I pause, I know that I'm not going to blindly react, and I ask myself, the reason I feel fill in the blank is because I believe or because I think fill in the blank. Because one thing I've learned on my path is that the way that we feel is always because of what we're thinking consciously or subconsciously. So this art of questioning enables you to get to the root of the underlying thought process or belief process that's connected to the trigger, and then you can ask yourself, is this true? Is what I'm thinking true? Is what I'm believing factually true? Or am I being triggered based on a projection or an assumption?
So even, is it true not just from your own field, but from, if somebody's projecting on you, you're asking the question, is this true? Are you looking at them or just yourself?
I'm looking at myself around my reaction.
Okay.
About why am I reacting the way that I'm internally reacting to this situation, and where is it connected to factual truth? Because when you can boil it down to factual truth, you know, and if you want to get like hardcore spiritual warrior about it, let's use the example of, okay, well, the reason I feel hurt is because this person lied to me. Okay, well, it might be factually true that this person lied to me, and it might be human nature to have some upset feelings around that, but a deeper factual truth is that humans do lie. So it's an unrealistic expectation for me to, you know, think that that should never happen in the world.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk about boundaries. There's a lot of talk about, of course, we've all been there with the dark night of the soul and inner work and shadow work. But there also seems to be a lot of talk these days about zero pointing, about integrating polarities, neutralizing programs, unconscious programming, blind spots, and so on. So in terms of like, let's try this. Like, I'm feeling aggravated. This is from the Don Miguel Ruiz. I'm feeling aggravated because I haven't got enough rest since I've been in Sedona. I'm kidding. I'm trying to get the words out. I'm beat to death. I guess what I'm saying is, let's flip it back. There's what in terms. Okay, let's do it this way. So somebody's lied to me today. I go through the modality. I put it to bed. Somebody lies to me 5 days from now. Somebody lies to me 2 days after that. In other words, there's a loop playing that seems to be playing in my life.
A recurring theme,
and it's not from the same person. It's from 7 or 8 different people over, say, a 2-3 week period. And I'm noticing that people are always lying to me. That seems to be kind of where this new awareness has taken us, in this physician heal thyself type of self-empowerment. How would we fix something like that? Is there something in my field that's attracting that? How do we figure out if it is or it isn't? Is it always about us?
Right. So yeah, there's the thing about people say, well, like, okay, well, whatever you are experiencing, you're attracting it because of your awareness or your vibration. Right. But we don't want to make assumptions about what the reason for that is. So for example, if you're having, you know, a recurring theme of people lying to you, does that mean it's because you're a liar? No. It might mean that you're having this experience so that you can recognize the clarity of your own discernment. It might be that you're having this experience because the universe is giving you what I call a pop quiz opportunity to really step into your empowerment and not take it personally. And so you can ask yourself, where is the opportunity for clarity, awareness, and healing through this dynamic that I'm recognizing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing I've noticed too is like when you integrate something and you zero point it, you'll still have that loop come back just to kind of, like you said, a little pop quiz. It'll come back. And I noticed that they come back, but they're not as magnified.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they get a little bit lesser, a little bit lesser, a little bit lesser. And it's almost, yeah, like you said, it's like a pop quiz.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you going to continue in the path of this new choice that you've made?
Right. So maybe hypothetically in this example that we're using, maybe in the past, if you recognized that somebody lied to you, maybe you would have really taken it personally and
Or suppressed it.
Or gone down a dark hole because of it. But now with the universe giving you pop quizzes to, sharpen your perception, your observation, not taking on other people's things, it gives you an opportunity to heal whatever core wound was connected to deceit in the first place.
Yeah.
And my barometer, so to speak, that I utilize in my life around if I have achieved healing with a core wound or not is if I can talk about it and not feel triggered.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's good.
If you can talk about something that formerly was like a big wound or a big trauma, you can talk about it in the now and not feel triggered in your nervous system. You've completely healed that wound.
Yeah, there's another thing too that I've noticed in myself, and I've noticed observing other people. Now, my wife has a saying, "If you know it, why you got to say it?" Right? Now, there's a lot of meaning to that in a short phrase like that. But what I'm talking about is when you're observing somebody else, which is a mirror of you, regardless of what that message means, whether it's, a pop quiz or something in you that's very similar that you've been blind about or whatever. But it's like in the old paradigm that we're coming out of, especially someone like yourself, I think would be very susceptible to it, and energy practitioners in general, because that's their job. Is to say, hey, this is what you're doing, and I'm your friend and I'm going to tell you this. To now, I'm seeing the power of saying nothing, and I know my wife's talked to me about this for a long, long time that we've been together, but there's stages of everything. And what I'm starting to see is how it's actually becoming anchored into the field, where if you just kind of step back, don't say anything, there's something else working, bringing it into alignment. And there's something about your knowing as a quantum co-creator that instead of going, hey, you're doing this, and emphasizing it with the verbalization of it, at least you're being quiet. Your thoughts aren't as wild. You're just kind of going, oh, I'm observing that. I used to do that, or I do that, or whatever the case is. And you just kind of go on instead of affecting, from a quantum co-creator state, affecting that external thing that you're observing by engaging in a lower vibration. I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you don't always have to call it out. Most of the time when I feel triggered, I work through my process and I keep it to myself without saying anything.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about.
Because it's very true about the energy behind our words is a big part of what we're creating in our life. And so it's always good to, if you do choose to speak about it when you can speak about it in a non-triggered way that is rooted in conscious communication in ways that are solution oriented.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I'm also noticing it in collaboration and co-creation. Where a lot of the stuff that we've learned has been kind of born out of conflict. In interactions where there's opposing frequencies, and the human part of us, which has been our conditioning, has to say this, and this one has to say that, and then it just goes back and forth and back and forth. What I'm noticing with collaboration and co-creation, it's the same type of thing. You can see the alignment occurring, and that old part of us wants to go, hey, we got to move this chess piece here and this one here. And as soon as we start to do that, it kind of affects the other energies involved where two or more gather. And it's really and I hate to use it this way or define it this way, but like a lower vibrational second nature response. It's how we're used to doing it. So I just think this whole thing about like your method for being triggered. Take a breath, observe it, go, wow, this is cool. Like I can see what's happening here and leaving it.
Yep.
Knowing that there's some type of force that's more active now, call it universal energy, third energy, Trinity, that's actually working with us when we have the same intention, we're two and more together.
Yes,
like
I love that. Yeah, and it's connected to this spiritual teaching that I learned from a book that I read. The book is called Dancing the Dream by Jamie Sams. She also is the author of the Animal Medicine Cards. So she teaches indigenous wisdom teachings that are connected to Native American teachings of the medicine wheel. But one of the teachings she shares in that book, which I love, is about be aware of the ripple you make in the world. And she used the example of her grandfather taking her to a pond one day and throwing a stone in the water, and of course seeing the rings and the ripples come out. And the teaching was, or be aware of the splash that you make in the world, and that can be very much through our words. The energy behind what we speak makes a splash in the world. And ultimately, when you're looking at the analogy of the ripples of rings that come in water after you throw a stone in it, eventually those rings make its way back to the shore where you are standing.
Yeah, it's kind of like pointing a finger at somebody and pointing back at you.
Yep. So being aware of the splash that you make in the world, and being really conscious of, the energy that you project, whether it's through your words or your actions or whatever, doing your best to put energy out that is going to result in a harmonious dynamic.
Yeah, I think another big thing too is like that kind of, I don't know if it frustrates me. It doesn't really frustrate me, it is something I feel like I right or wrong have to talk about. And not, I don't mean today necessarily, I'm just bringing it up to see what your thoughts are, but that is like, especially for someone like you who's been on the path for so long and then been in a PowerPoint place like Sedona for so long, there was this whole thing about wake up. Become aware of who you are. And there's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of talk about, oh, I'm a galactic being, and I'm a starseed, and I'm a Blu-ray, and I'm an indigo, and I was this in the past life, and I channel this. Yet, we're walking through the motions of this experience like a scared human.
Yeah.
Like we're fearful of this programming. We're fearful. We won't let go of these attachments of the conditioning and the parameters that have been set up and the rules and regulations and all that. And it's kind of baffling to me. I'm at the point now where I'm like going, what the hell are you going to do to me? I'm an eternal soul. Let's make some magic. Like I don't believe we came here just to wake up and be aware of who we are. Like I know I am an aspect of the goddess, the God, source, whatever, just as you are, and I'm looking at a mirror, and this is not a coincidence. But what do we do with it? Do we just, walk through, and like Forrest Gump?
Right. Okay, thanks, bye.
And in this bubble, and I mean that two ways. One in a very positive way, and one in a way of like blindly just allowing life to come to you. I know it's kind of complex, but I really feel like we're at a point now where it's time to co-create and collaborate.
That's what I feel. And like all of the thing about healing and awakening is meant to, again, bring us to a point, where we are healed, we are awakened, and we are co-creating a higher vibrational life for us all.
Yeah.
I feel that's the point of it all.
Yeah. And sometimes we need to just take a chill pill. It's not the red pill or the blue pill, right? It's a chill pill.
It's a chill pill.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about like, I'm from this, Arcturian, starseed, Palladian, da-da-da-da-da. Great, but anchor it in the here and now.
Right.
You know?
Yes. Like you are only going to be Carrie one time, as far as we know. I'm only going to be Todd one time. He's only going to be Jade one time. Let's give it hell.
Yeah.
Because like the minute we get done, and I know this, and I know it's going to be it's all perfect and everything, but I think many of us have had interactions, let's say, with the astral dimensions and so on. We're gonna want to come right back. Mm-hmm. We're gonna want to jump right back into the fray.
It's like, oh, I should have said this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely believe that we are eternal souls. We have multiple experiences of life throughout eternity, but right here, right now is where we are, and this is the one that matters, and this is where we can make a difference.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, I choose to live in regard to how can I make the most of this precious gift of life that I've been given right now.
Yeah. Gods and goddesses in the flesh, mm-hmm. which is remarkable because we've all had dimensional experiences and lucid dream experiences where we are infinitely, equipped.
Yeah.
And I had a series of lucid dreams this morning. I kept waking up every hour. It kept continuing. I'm like, what's the message? It was a very masculine, toxic release. Something like that going on. But when the final one came, and I woke up for good, I'm like, okay, that wasn't resolved. Like, I don't know what this dream's about, but they had my kid. They had kidnapped my kid. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to pop in the dimension. I'm going to go get them back. I'm going to kind of rectify the situation energetically, and then I'm going to wait for the message of the lucid dreams. Like, what I'm saying is, this stuff is coming into play in the physicality. Mm-hmm. When we talk about teleportation, bilocation, telepathy, telekinesis, these things are real. They're part of our natural nature.
Real. Yes.
We don't have to go into meditative state. We don't have to take a plant medicine. This is what's happening, and we're actually, in my opinion, just on the precipice, or some of us anyway. We know that's how it works. Once some of us clear the hurdle or open the door, then more come, right? Mm-hmm. But I really feel like that this is where we're at, and I feel like it's unstoppable. And I think the route to get there is through collaboration and co-creation, creativity.
And it's all about trusting your inner guidance. The work that I'm doing in my life now is a lot about teaching people how to trust their intuition, because that is how our soul speaks to us, is through our intuition. And now, more than ever before, every day we're gaining in regard to a shift of critical mass.
Yeah.
More and more people are waking up, and it is our intuition that is our primary tool for navigation forward. And so learning to trust that, I think, is a key component to the collaboration, because that's what's going to bring you into your highest timeline, right place, right time for you.
Yeah.
And aligning with other people who are on that same vibe.
Yeah. So this comes up in your practice.
Yes.
And so do people have any difficulty? Do they ever come in saying, well, I don't even know what my intuition is? Or do they have an idea of it?
I would say that one of the biggest questions that I get asked by my clients is, how can they learn to access their intuition for themselves? So everybody's interested in it, for sure.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, from my perspective, getting an intuition is super easy. Trusting it is the hard part.
Yeah. And I think it's better now because there's more people talking about it. It's more out there. And I'm not talking about the, what am I trying to say? The words, the icing, the mask, the plastic that is, part of the Lightworker disclosure conspiracy community. You're going to see the same makeup in any type of energy field. But I think the authentic part of it, the raw part of it, the real part of it is now coming to the surface. And it's these discussions like, how do you do that? People being seen with higher skills or abilities when in fact you have the same skills and abilities.
Exactly.
So it's like this information is coming out. So I think people have more support. And I think that, but I wanted to ask you, so like, I know that there's a lot of talk about higher self.
Yes.
And of course there's talk about subconscious. Mm-hmm. your method or understanding of, I guess, like the difference in your mind from your perspective of higher self and intuition, are they linked?
I feel so, yes. I feel like the more connected we are with our higher selves, the healthier we are physically, because it's like an intermeshing of the spiritual aspects of ourselves through the physical body, through the physical senses. One way that our intuition speaks to us is through like a subtle energy extension of the physical senses, right? So we have physical seeing, we have psychic seeing, we have physical hearing, we have psychic hearing. So it's a combination of being connected with your higher self and being a clear channel for that.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody put it that way. I like that because what you said about, I don't know exactly how you just said this, but it's like the higher sensitivities, and then of course the five sensitivities. But I can remember many times that I've had, I guess, more clarity or more clair of some sort or another. My hearing gets like supersonic. My vision will get supersonic. Like it might be dark at night, but I can clearly see certain things. Or many times it's been smell.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll go, oh, you know, there's something happening. I remember that smell. You know, yeah, I never.
It is totally possible to get intuitive insights or psychic insights through psychic sensing and smelling as well.
Yeah. And how would you recommend to somebody, or do you have to, in terms of like cultivating a connection with their higher self?
I would say meditate with the intention of doing so. Just meditate with the intention of connecting with your higher self, and again, trusting what you experience. A good way to strengthen that is, it's not just about saying hi to your higher self, like, hey, I'm connecting, but have a conversation with your higher self internally within yourself. Ask your higher self questions and listen to what your higher self says to you in response. And then again, it's about like trusting it. A really good way to strengthen that connection would be to write things down. Because writing it down, I find, helps a person to take what might otherwise be just sort of like a vague, abstract notion of an insight that's trying to come through. And when you're writing it down, you're grounding it into the physical. And I guarantee you, for those of you who are interested in trying this, if you try it, you might start out with like one key word. And if you let yourself let it be a stream of consciousness, it's going to turn into like pages of information. And the more you do that, then over time, you won't need the paper anymore. And it's just intending to shift up to your higher self. Again, it's just the intention to do so is really all that's needed. And then trusting what comes through. Most of the time when I do readings for people, I'm just being the voice of what their own higher self is already telling them.
Yeah.
I'm just being the voice of their own intuition. That's all.
Have you noticed a difference in your clientele this year?
I'm super duper busy. I know that. Like, there's like definitely an influx of people who are having various levels of personal senses of crisis in their life. And I see my role as supporting people in how to utilize what might feel like a crisis and turn it into an opportunity for awareness. So that's what I'm seeing. A lot of people, of course, are freaked out. And on one level, how could people not be with, you know, all of the half-truth, over-exaggerated propaganda that's happening in the world? And a lot of people haven't learned how to be in their own timeline. Like for me, I feel like I'm in my own timeline. I'm more in that 5D consciousness level where I'm doing what I'm guided to do. I 100% through and through feel in my life I'm exactly where I need to be. Everything's fine. You know, and here's the thing. At the end of the day, whatever happens in the world, spirit, God, universe, cosmic consciousness, whatever you want to call it, never gives us a challenge without giving us the tools to rise through that challenge. Never gives us a dream without giving us the tools that we need to make that dream come true. And we have to remember those things in this time and not take the bait
Yeah.
and get caught into smallness, get caught into fear.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think the prospects are of people, let's just say a strong minority or even more, getting to the point where it becomes more common to recognize everything that we're experiencing throughout the day is basically a message to us, a continuing message to us, and then to navigate, our path based on that information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what were you saying about like?
Well, like everything we go through, I was just thinking about what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just
I totally agree about that.
Let me bring you into my head.
Okay.
So here's this person I'm sitting next to. They've been on the path a very long time. They're living in a high-powered place that has a lot of dense energy come into it, because you have a lot of tourists and
yes.
Okay, so I totally get about your own timeline, because my wife and I live it, and obviously we're all fluctuating. It's never just. It's kind of a
surf to ride, yeah.
It's a vibration, and then you're up at your new low point is your old high point, so it's all good. But now I would say the quarantine, that type of thing, is the perfect example. So, like for instance, last night we went to dinner. I wanted to stop by Circle K. I just get out of the car. I walk in to the Circle K, and I don't have a mask on, so I went to the guy and I did what I had to do, and I came out and I wasn't thinking about it. This is my timeline, so it's not even in my field. Just like in a 5D field, there is no healing, there's no forgiveness, there's no suspicion, there's no ownership. So I came out and my wife said, I almost ran out and gave you a mask, because there's signs all over the door that say mask required. Then I can think of another situation where I walked into a Walgreens and the guy's basically verbally accosting my wife. Get the F away from me, and,
right.
And so it's like, it's almost like the messages, like, and I read the message when that happened to me in the Walgreens. I got it. I was like, okay, I've really got to be in my field. I've really got to be conscious of my own timeline. Otherwise, I'm going to be susceptible to these types of things.
Yes.
Like you talked about the pop quizzes. But I guess what I'm saying is well, let me put it another way. Do you feel like that the 5D, for lack of a better description, the 5D consciousness, the collective consciousness, the one that we share, is becoming more dominant? Do you see any evidence that it's starting to take over the collective experience of 3D and 4D?
I do. Right. I feel that strongly. Like my own insights that I get for myself are guiding me in that way, that we are gaining momentum in regard to eventually there is going to be a critical mass that causes a significant shift. It feels like it's happening in spheres of awareness. If I may, I'll just share quickly this. When I was in my young 20s, I had one of my psychic message dreams that I sometimes have that are like real experiences, where these beings of light, and they came to me a few different times, but one of the things that they showed me in this dream was that it's about a new consciousness happening. The way they showed it to me was a new earth. They're like, okay, there's another earth that is sort of right next to this earth, but in a different dimension. And there's a consciousness that's rising. And when I had that dream, they were taking me to this new earth on a different dimension. And I was in fear. And they told me the only reason that you're afraid is because you don't know about this yet.
Yeah.
Right? And they told me not to be afraid and blah, blah, blah. And so they took me to this new place, which is representative of this consciousness awakening that's happening now. But the other thing that they showed me with the new earth thing is that as our consciousness is raising, there's sort of an equal opposite darker force that's trying to pull people in the opposite direction. So now is the time. People need to decide for themselves, what train am I on?
Yeah.
Right? Am I committed to raising consciousness, Or am I going to fall into the slumber of fear and kind of, I hate to say it this way, but be left behind?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a conscious choice, no doubt. We choose what waters we're swimming in. And I think what I'm getting, in fact, I put something up this morning about this divide, like we're at a point now where there is no middle ground. Mm-hmm. It's like it's all or nothing. You can play over here or you can play over here. Now, this area over here, we're familiar with, we're comfortable with, because this is all we've ever known. But like everything else in universal expansion, universal growth, personal expansion, you got to step into that holy darkness, that womb of the Mother Goddess where new creations are made. And that to me really is what New Earth is. New Earth to me is like, it's not a done deal.
Right.
It's like
dynamic work in progress.
Yeah, it's going to be like what we're making it. We are it.
We are, yeah.
It's no different than people talk about the original blueprint. We return to the original blueprint. I don't believe that. I believe we have the original blueprint, and maybe there was stuff shrouding it and blocking it. But now that now that it's firing off again, we're here actually expanding that original blueprint, expanding these templates we've been given.
And I do feel that more people are making that choice.
Yeah, I do too. Mm-hmm. I do too, and I got to ask you too, before we run out of time. I want to talk about what you do before we get out of here. But the last question.
Yes.
Before we get into the final part. So you've been in Sedona 17, 18 years. Mm-hmm. You're very honest and down to earth, which is very cool. Because I can see with the work I do and even my own experiences how we all get this powerful information and in different ways, and
yes.
It can be compelling, and then we can over-identify with it and kind of lose our humility, not in a bad way, not in a judgmental way, just in this is the way of the road. I mean, this is how we learn. Sometimes you got to be humiliated to find humility. But so you kind of, I would imagine, you have matured and you have evolved because you've experienced quite a bit. But in regard to Sedona, I'm just curious: does it still test you? What's your relationship with Sedona, and where are you at with getting these pop quizzes?
I still get my pop quizzes. I know that. But it's like this. Instead of like this, it's like this. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that too.
But I welcome it because I am so committed, seriously committed to my spiritual growth. We all have blind spots,
True.
and I welcome blind spots being brought to my attention. I do. Yeah. Because I want to become all I can be in this life, and for me, that's what it's all about.
That's a big statement, and we're in kind of a difficult situation now because of this, because of the energy of 2020. It's like, when do you say something? When do you keep your mouth shut? Mm-hmm. It's like, the other thing I think that's really starting to show its face is telepathy. Mm-hmm. Almost like what you were talking about with trusting intuition.
Yes.
I guess it's the same thing, really, but now it's involving two people, mm-hmm. and it's like I can see it happening. I'm seeing it happen more and more every day, where you get it. Nothing has to be said, and you just keep on going. So mm-hmm. you first of all, let me ask you this: is there anything that you want to do? I don't know if you want to do a song, do a dance, an activation, meditation, prayer, or just, is there anything that you wanted to say as far as commentary goes before we get off? And then after that, I want to just let everybody know what you do here.
Okay.
And where they can find you and all that.
Okay. Yeah, this is my opportunity to bring a message to the viewers. I encourage all of us to believe in ourselves, trust your intuition, but first and foremost, believe in your dreams. I feel that everything that we've been experiencing in 2020 on multiple levels has, on a spiritual level, if we can look at it from a universal, higher octave spiritual perspective, everything we're experiencing now is meant to bring us into a space of self-reflection and reconsideration around how we're investing our energies in our lives. It's a time of evaluating, okay? Like, how many things do I have going on in my life that aren't feeding my soul? How can I be on track with feeding my soul? If we could all just tune in to our, in shamanism, it's called your silent knowledge, your silent knowing, your inner knowing, and allow yourself to believe in what your inner knowing is conveying to you about what your highest goals and dreams and ambitions are, and keep your sight set on that, consciously intending and asking for the universe to support you in the direction of your highest, most vibrant experience of life, then that is the best use of the energies that we're swimming in now. Utilize it as a catalyst, because my guides tell me that this is what it's for. This is catapulting us forward. It's almost like taking a slingshot and you have to stretch it back, right? So we're sort of in the stretched back phase right now. But once we can let go, it's going to be a huge quantum leap forward in consciousness.
Yeah, I like that, because I think so much stuff is out there. It kind of complicates things. And I like what you said. And one, we can't forget, or however you want to say this, to ask.
Yes.
Like we all know that when we ask, we've always gotten the answer, even though we did not, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
But we've been through a lot of that stuff. So number one is to ask. And then, of course, I think it's really one and the same, though. Like, I know I got up this morning, I'm like, man, I am beat. I am energetically depleted. Can you please, and I feel so strange these days because I know I'm talking to myself, I'm like, can you please help me re-energize in all departments, and also assist me in serving to the highest and best for myself, for the collective, for humanity, But those things actually, to me, work. They're very subtle in the way they come back, but to me, they work. They're like the rules of the road, 1 and 2.
Yeah, we have to remember to ask.
Yeah. So, how do people find you, and
all that?
What do you do online and locally? Because we're getting a lot of interaction from the local community in Sedona.
Awesome. So I do have a website. It's holisticpsychic.com, and that's with an H, holisticpsychic.com. Also, when we first went into quarantine several months ago, I was divinely inspired to start a YouTube channel. So I just started a YouTube channel a few months ago. And if you just go to YouTube, you can find it under my name, Carrie Kanya, and the spelling of it will be probably somewhere in the description of this live video.
Wait, give me the spelling, because I'm going to change it right now.
Okay, it's C, you ready?
I got that one.
Okay, Carrie, and my last name is Kanya, Konyha.
That's right. Okay, I got you.
And so I'm just uploading videos that support our collective journeys in spiritual awakening, healing, and empowerment.
Okay.
And so I invite you to check that out. I do have a boutique that my husband and I own here in Sedona, Arizona. It's in Uptown Sedona. It's called Alcon Bazaar. And we specialize in importing things from Egypt because my husband's from there. But I have a session room there where I see my clients as well. So I operate mainly by appointment, but I do take walk-ins when I'm at the store. And so you can always find me there. If you're visiting Sedona, stop in, check us out. I'm planning to launch a series of online courses in January of 2021 that I'm working on developing now. And they're going to be things ranging from meditation to intuitive development, topics relating to spiritual growth, things like that.
Right on. Mm-hmm. So I just had a walk-in, I think, yesterday. Can I come over and get a
session?
I'm kidding with you. So, all right, this is cool. I hope to collaborate with you again.
Yeah,
in the
thank
future.
you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, maybe not this trip, but come over to the shop and do a video. Walking
that would be
around,
cool.
see what you do. You and your husband, what you do there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you today, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody.
Thank you so much, and thanks for all of you who are tuning in. I appreciate that.
Right on.
Yeah.
And don't forget, vibrationalempowerment.net. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that as the shows go on, and my brain comes back into the field of consciousness. But Vibrational Empowerment.net is the website of Jade and the crew. Please get over there, check it out, support them, subscribe, and take part, because they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we're all here to help each other. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Peace out,
Blessings.
everybody.
Blessings.